Hey everybody, Jim Chester coming to you live. I think this is interview 10 on the day, man.
Awesome.
We've been rocking out here at the Gonstead Extravaganza in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. If you guys didn't know, this is Clarence Gonstead's private office. You can see the diplomas and his recognition on the wall behind us, his old view box. That's pretty cool that he probably did all kinds of case reviews in here. But I got Dr. Todd Pickman with me here. Todd is out of Boise. Is it Boise?
Meridian, Idaho. So, yep, it's right next to Boise. Boise's how they say it out there. I said Boise when I moved there, too. I won't fault you.
So he's out in Idaho. And why'd you come here, man?
Well, I've been a Gonstead practitioner for 15 years, a little over 15 years. Gonstead and a couple other things, Gonstead and CBP and functional movement. And I've been here probably a dozen times. And this place, if you've never been here and you've been into chiropractic, this is the world's largest chiropractic clinic. And it's like by far, it's not just by a little bit. I mean, I've been quoting saying this is a 29,000 square foot clinic, and it's way bigger. I was off because it's like 29,000 is like the top floor, and then there's the bottom floor, which is another, but it's huge. It is something that is part of chiropractic history that needs to be here forever. And like, you've been in chiropractic for so long, right? Around chiropractic, this is your first time here.
Yeah. And
so like you and I were chatting yesterday, and you were like, holy moly, like this is crazy, right?
I've never seen anything like this, and it's like being inside of like a time capsule built by Frank Lloyd Wright, but it was built by one of Frank Lloyd Wright's underlings, so it's pretty cool to be in like a Frank Lloyd Wright-esque building all weekend, and honestly, being in the creator of the Gonstead systems inside of his private office.
And just to think that this place was packed literally, 20 hours a day, because it was open from essentially 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. And they had a 4-hour stint where they actually would shoo people away and say, come back tomorrow, go back to the Caracol, which is the hotel they built right next door for people to stay there, or go back to your homes or wherever you're at. Most of the time people were traveling from all over the world to see Gonstead. They'd have maybe a week or two for him to work on them and see if he can fix pretty much anything under the sun of what they came here for. You know what? A really cool story that I'll share, because it happened in these halls. I heard this a couple years ago. I met this old-time chiropractor, and he told me that he came to the Gonstead Clinic when he was a student in school. So it's back when Dr. Gonstead was here and all the other Gonstead doctors that worked under Clarence were here. And so he's here for the first time. He had heard all these like miracle stories about Clarence Gonstead. So he comes up here as a student, and he's walking up and down the halls, and it's just packed with patients. You know, waiting room was packed with over 100 people waiting there. And so he's walking up and down the hall, and he's interviewing different patients. And he comes upon this one guy that had a neck brace on. And so he walked up to the guy, and he said, because he's thinking, man, you have a neck brace on, like, man, are they not fixing you? You know? And so he walks up to this guy with his neck brace on, and he says, hey, so how long have you been coming up here? And this guy says, well, I've been seeing Dr. Gonstead for 2 years. And so this student, soon to be chiropractor, says, 2 years? So what, he hasn't gotten you out of the neck brace yet? And so the way he tells the story is he paused and got a little teary-eyed just telling me, because he said this guy got teary-eyed telling him, and he said, Dr. Gonstead saved my life. When I came in here, it was after my plane went down, and I became a quadriplegic, and I was completely paralyzed, told I would never walk again. And they brought me as a quadriplegic here, and Dr. Gonstead got me walking. And he said, all I have left over from that injury is this neck brace, which is like, I get chills just saying that right now, right? But it's that Gonstead had the guts, because he had the system to be able to move in and work on patients like that. And so, I mean, just such a amazing person that put together a clinic that I think matches his vision and what he did for the profession, which is why, like, a big part of why you're doing these interviews too, which I think is great, is to get the awareness out there, not just to Gonstead chiropractors, to all chiropractors, because this is something that's so important for our profession as far as preserving this place. Mm-hmm. And, you know, back in 1964, when they built it, they were talking about it cost $800,000 to build this place, mm-hmm. which, you know, if you do the inflation, that would have been several $1,000,000 now. And granted, this is like not expensive real estate. This is like, you know, Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. So $800,000 on this back then was a lot of money, right?
Sure.
Right. And now I was doing the math. I mean, it's like 52 years old is what it is, right? So it's a 52-year-old building. And I mean, if you look around in this room, I mean, wood paneling everywhere, these lights, like, I guess everyone was short that walked through here or something, but the lights almost hit your head. You can't see it. It's off camera. But, so the whole Gonstead Foundation was formed to make sure that this building didn't fall by the wayside and just kind of go where all those other different chiropractic artifacts just kind of fell apart. Cool thing about this place is it's still functional. It's not functional like it was in its heyday, but there's still doctors here seeing patients. They still do seminars here. We've been doing seminars all weekend in the room downstairs. And anyway, every time I come here, like I said, I've been here about a dozen times. I just think back to the 1970s when everyone's here learning from the master. And this is before MRI, before CT scans, before all that stuff. It was just, a skilled set of hands, full spine x-ray, and you figure out what's going on with the patient.
Yeah. And the thing is I found out over this weekend is that the specificity of not just an upper cervical move, but the specificity of a chair move, the specificity of a side posture move, the specificity of a knee chest move. Like there's a certain type of care for all misalignments. Yeah. There's a subluxation type pattern that people get, and there's a specific set of tools, if you will, for the practitioner to have the best line of drive to set that subluxation back to where it's supposed to go, to where it holds longer, which I think is just absolutely fascinating because I've never had a workup from a proper Gonstead practice before. I've never been x-rayed by a Gonstead practice. I've never been adjusted specifically Gonstead style after everything with the little nerve scan or the inflammation scan, whatever you guys do.
Yeah.
So it's been very eye-opening to me. Plus, I've been able to interview guys that have been practicing for 40 years. One guy's been practicing for 52 years, man. He's 81. You know what his patient volume is? He still sees 100 people a week.
It's nuts. It's awesome.
So I think also this type of system gives longevity to the practitioner because you're able to use proper dynamics to adjust, and you're not breaking down your body as a practitioner as well.
I mean, that is how it's supposed to be done. Now, granted, I can tell you, I know a lot of the greats that become hyperkyphotic and have these different postural issues and whatnot. And of course, my brain and your brain goes to CBP, right? right. As far as, okay, well, if you can combine Gonstead and CBP and postural correction and functional movement, then you could really put that longevity into the practitioner as well. But yes, it is stress to have good body mechanics as you're adjusting. But I mean, a lot of these guys are just workhorses. Like if you looked at what Clarence Gonstead did, I mean, he worked, and I mean, the high-low table would basically go down. He'd fall asleep. Okay, he'd adjust the patient. He'd push the foot pad to bring it up. He'd fall asleep again. It would come up. He'd wake up. I mean, there's stories of just how this guy was just so relentless on if he wasted time sleeping, he couldn't help another patient. And so, I mean, think about that, 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., 6 days a week. And on the 7th day, it was a half day.
How many did he see a day? Do you know?
I think it was a couple hundred is what they said, like sometimes 200, 250. And it's not a couple hundred like fly through the adjustment. Some of them literally, like in all the case management stuff that we've been doing all day today, something that they're stressing. And a lot of these old timer chiropractors, no offense to the old timers who are watching this, but the old timer chiropractors said that Dr. Gonstead routinely would only work on one segment, sometimes two. And so sometimes that workup would take 10 minutes. Sometimes it's palpating, it's looking at the film, it's getting them up, having them walk up and down the hall, and then look at it again, and then saying, you know what, something just doesn't match, and then send them back to x-ray to get a new x-ray because it didn't match what he was finding on his palpation. I mean, like, so meticulous before making that adjustment. And I guess he had the luxury of everyone else who's already here. It's in the middle of nowhere. They're waiting no matter what. It's not like someone's going to throw a stink in the waiting room and be like, he's taking too long, I'm out of here, I'm going to go to the guy down the street. It was like, people were going to wait no matter what. And it wasn't that he was trying to make people wait, but he was so analytical and wanted to make sure he found that one nerve that was causing that patient's problem. He really had a reverence for the spine that I think a lot of chiropractic either never learned or is forgotten about. As far as this idea of just going crack, 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 and crushing someone's spine and just like, yeah, we're just going to improve motion and mobility. Man, that is blasphemy as far as like how Dr. Gonstead did it. It was the specific, precise adjustment of one segment. And now years later, we have a lot of the science on our side talking about the neurology behind that and why that's so impactful and important. And on a side note too, for some of the chiropractors watching who are really into the science and like to, be extremely skeptical with stuff, that's how my brain works too. That's how, and believe it or not, a lot of the Gonstead greats are very skeptically minded people, and they're always looking at themselves as far as what they're doing. How can it be refined? What things did we think worked for a certain reason or mechanism that we have better explanations now? But also what things worked clinically that maybe we still don't have a great explanation for, but it works. So we're not going to abandon it and wait until some peer-reviewed research comes out. We'll keep doing it, and we'll try to find that reason and explanation. Like perfect example is scoping. Okay, using a temperature differential instrument. There's all the arguments under the sun. All the studies out there show there's not inter-examiner reliability, reproducibility. Is it valid for what? What is it actually measuring? And this was a big discussion we had today. But the fact is, it tells you information that has worked over the years to help fix a patient. And it also tells you information as far as when to leave a certain area alone. I've seen this 15 years in practice. And so anyone and everyone, I would just say, if you're going to criticize that and you've never used an instrument for years and years on end, it's kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really a fair position to come from as far as critiquing, because once you do this clinically, you'll see that validity in it. Granted, it'd be great if we had some research to back it up and show exactly what it did. But the cool part about GMI, Gonstead Methodology Institute, is that their position is always, we're not stuck in 1978 when Dr. Gonstead died. Dr. Gonstead was an innovator. He was always trying to move forward, always trying to improve. That's what they're trying to do, constantly improve. I just sat through a couple-hour talk about neurology and vagus nerve stimulation and specificity of upper cervical, and it was just a research paper that they were analyzing, and it was tough because I didn't have any coffee, so I was just like, but I mean, it was great, and it was talking about adaptability and heart rate variability and how that relates back to an adjustment and the changes of when a joint actually adjusted properly, how that changed heart rate variability when the joint didn't adjust properly, like when the patient was tough and it didn't move well, it didn't change it. So then it's like, well, does it matter if the joint cavitates or moves? These are all these different questions.
So just reel it back a little bit. You came here as a student, right?
As far as what?
When you first came to the Gonstead clinic?
Yeah. I went to 22 Gonstead seminars before I graduated chiropractic school, which was I think a record.
You broke a record.
At least at that time. I came here probably 4 or 5 times before I graduated school. I've been here about a dozen times now.
So what does it mean for you to see all these chiropractic students here getting their training?
It's awesome. Every time I come here, just having other students learning, and I'm thinking back to those moments when I was in their shoes and all the stuff I've learned since then, but seeing their excitement for the work and really putting in the work to learn this, because I'll tell you, to be honest, and this is no disrespect for anyone who doesn't do Gonstead, because it's not about that. It's really just about trying to raise the bar for everyone. But this system, this technique, it's hard to learn. It is the most, I would say, skill intensive, difficult technique to learn. I did a lot of sports and stuff growing up. Learning how to set a seated cervical properly was the hardest thing I ever learned in my entire life. Okay. And I mean, I made adjusting dummies in school. All the instructors at school used to make fun of me. I used to carry around a big one on my shoulder named Clarence. And so I mean, it's like a athletic skill that you learn. And so these students who are out here doing this, they're putting in the work so that they can do better for their patients and really do better for the profession.
So there's a real reason for the interview now. There's a reason behind why you've become the Gonstead guy the CBP guy, and now the Move Well guy. How did all this come together for you to become this perfect mix of getting people to the point where they can maximize their potential?
You know, for the first eight plus years in practice, I just did strict Gonstead. I was
blinders on,
just blinders on. There was nothing else. I mean, I drank the Kool-Aid and was like, man, this is it. And I can tell you, I still believe in the importance of the specific adjustment, and I still do the work. We still gown and scope every patient. Our 5,300 square foot clinic has changing rooms that lead into our adjusting room. Every patient gets gowned and scoped, or guys have a shirt off, skin on skin analysis and adjusting. I still feel like those roots are important, that specificity. However, I then went a step further and said, man, there's more stuff to this, and I was really interested in curve correction.
It's like, where's the research?
Yep, and then I stumbled upon CBP and saw what they were doing, which was phenomenal. They had the research, they had the systems, and I was like, man, this is like a perfect marriage. Mm-hmm. And there are a handful of Gonstead docs that are really ingrained in CBP. I think those two techniques complement each other very, very well. And then I felt like there was still one more piece of the puzzle that wasn't being addressed, which was looking at movement patterns, functional movement, and then putting protocols in place, right? And so that's what we did for our own clinic. I had no intention of teaching this or cloning it or doing anything, but then as a result of being contacted all the time by doctors saying, hey, how do you do this, this, and this, we decided to put a system together, and we did. And I'll tell you, like this weekend, which is kind of cool, the whole power of Facebook, I've been stopped about 100 times by different people going, hey, I watch all your stuff on Facebook, or I follow your podcast, which is really cool, you know? So it just means it's reaching people, and we're in a day and age now where, I mean, you and I can get here, and this is like we're on CNN right now, right? Right. And it's on a phone, which is amazing. So like on a different note, everyone watching this is how you reach your community and how you reach your profession, how you impact, is you broadcast. Mm-hmm. You know, you capture stories like this. But
well, you also follow people out there outside of the chiropractic industry, like myself, that learns from people outside of chiropractic, like Gary Vaynerchuk, like Grant Cardone, mm-hmm. like Damon John, and you follow what these influencers are doing, like Russell Brunson. Yeah. You follow what guys outside of chiropractic are doing and how they're influencing people as quick as we are right now. So really what we're doing is we're taking the playbook from the massive influencers in this world, people that aren't chiropractically related, and we're taking those principles and implementing them into the chiropractic marketing brand. And that's how we're actually making this massive impact. And what I wanted to do with what we're doing with Chiro Hustle is I always wanted to be one step ahead of everyone. I want to put out more content than anybody else. Even if you guys are like, man, this guy saturates my feed. He's done 10 times today. Well,
I see it every day on my watch. I'll be adjusting patients, and I get the little vibrate thing on my watch that says Jim Chester is live, and I'm like, man, Jim, you're at it again, which is awesome.
But that's just it, is if we really want to penetrate the market, you have to become your own media company. Eventually I'll start training all of you how to do this, but I think really if we want to get chiropractic exposed and be able to have the practitioners that are trained with the specificity of adjustment, with the curve correction techniques, with the diversified, whatever they decide to do, the TRT, the network, whatever practice they want to do, they have to get more people involved to get them into the offices. Mm-hmm. So you guys have to realize that you're your own media companies, and you have all the power right here. It's right here in a little microphone, a couple lights over here, and a cell phone that's right out there. And it's all a traveling kit. We just took elements, combined them together, and now we have the power to broadcast, live stream from the world's greatest chiropractic practice of all time.
It's awesome. Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess like closing words, and I'll leave the closing words up to Jim because it's his show. But closing words, what I would say is to anyone watching this, if you've never been to a Gonstead seminar, and it doesn't matter what technique you have, you don't have to change anything at all, but just you owe it to yourself to get exposed to this and to check it out and come to a seminar at the Gonstead Clinic. They do a handful per year. They have a big annual seminar called the Gonstead Extravaganza. It's open to anyone, everyone, any type of chiropractor. You don't have to have like a special Gonstead secret handshake to get in through the front door. You just come and show up, and everyone loves on you, and it's a great community. So I would say come out here, check this place out. And if you're looking for something when they don't have one up at the Gonstead seminar, Gonstead Methodology Institute, GMI, they do phenomenal work. They do a lot of seminars out in Iowa. and just very meticulous, and it's just very evidence-based, a lot of science behind it, a lot of just analysis, which for a lot of our brains out there, that's the stuff that we love, all the spine geeks, right?
Yeah. And, if you guys did want to get more information on maybe how to donate to help keep this facility running at the top notch, go to Gonstead.com, click on donate, and you guys can help perpetuate the future of the Gonstead Clinic in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. Yeah. I'm just going to close out with them. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So Todd Pickman, Jim Chester, Cairo Hustle, and I'm just going to say what I've always heard is to tell the story. Keep telling the story. Keep hustling. See you on the next interview.
Cool. See ya.